Hello and welcome to MSHA University at mshau.com, your education and training resource for miners and mining contractors. Today we're going to talk about the 6 most important roles for MSHA training. This is the Mine Safety and Health Administration's regulations around Part 46 surface miner training and Part 48 underground miner training. Super important to understand these roles, how they work together, what their responsibilities are, so that you can stay compliant and ultimately avoid citations and costs. You'll also want to go to our website, mshau.com/6 roles, that's the number 6, ROLES, for an article that's got a lot more detail, some really important information there. So let's get started. Here are your 6 roles: miner, independent contractor, mine operator, responsible person, competent person, and MSHA approved instructor. We're going to go through each of these in a little bit of detail so that you understand, again, what's important about each role. The miner. Everything starts with the miner. All of MSHA's safety regulations, training requirements, they all focus on the miner. They are designated as any person who works at a mine, engaged in mining operations, any construction worker exposed to mine hazards. This is important to understand, especially this section. This includes independent contractors and ultimately anyone who is performing work at a mine and exposed to mine hazards. MSHA considers them miners, whether you work as an employee of the mine or not. What's important to understand after that is that if MSHA considers you a miner, you have to take and complete and document all of the same training that's required of a miner. That's a really important thing to understand, and that takes us to the mining contractor. Essentially, if you work at a mine and are exposed to mining hazards, like I mentioned, MSHA will consider you a mining contractor. I get the question all the time from contractors who call and say, I just got this contract to perform work at a mine. Why do I have to take all this training? Well, it's because MSHA considers you a miner. It draws no distinctions between the two at that point, and you'll have to take all the Part 46, for example, 24 hours of training and all the documentation that's required there, or depending upon the type of mine you'll work at, a Part 48 underground mine, which requires 40 hours of training and, of course, the documentation. The mine operator, this is effectively the boss. They are in charge and they have the authority to designate 2 of the other roles that we're going to talk about here in just a moment, the responsible person and the competent person. But the way that MSHA defines any operator, independent contractor whose employees perform services at the mine. So just like if you're a contractor performing work, you're considered a mine operator. If you're a contract company performing work at a mine, you're also considered a mine operator in this context. The responsible person, this is the person designated by the mine operator, like I was saying, that other person, that other role that has the authority to designate. This responsible person is responsible for the health and safety training at the mine. This person's name specifically also has to appear in the training plan as well as on the training record. They're the person who signs off and certifies that training has been completed. The competent person. This is specifically for Part 46 surface miner training. This is the person designated by the mine operator who has the ability, training, knowledge, experience to provide the training. They also must be able to assess the effectiveness of the training as well. But they also need to show up on the training plan, and for Part 46, they are required to show up in the training record. For Part 48, that's not the case. But for Part 46, the competent person needs to show up in both places. And it needs to be a person's name. MSHA wants to see a competent person in the training plan that has subjects associated with that person's name that they are competent for. They don't want to see that you sent somebody to a training company and the training company's name. They typically want to see an actual person. And again, for Part 46, that person needs to be named with the subjects that were provided to the trainee, to the miner on that training record. For Part 48, not the case. You just fill out the 5023 form to record and certify training for Part 48. Now, speaking of Part 48, the approved instructor. This is the MSHA approved instructor, is an instructor who's been approved by MSHA to instruct in the courses which are given. How does that happen? It is typically by way of taking a course. You have to be accepted into an MSHA instructor course. When you successfully complete that, you can become an MSHA approved instructor. This is specifically for Part 48 regulations, and all of the training that has to take place for Part 48, A and B, underground and surface area of underground mines, has to be performed by an approved instructor. Now, what's nice about that is that an MSHA approved instructor for Part 48 is automatically approved to train for Part 46. So it's a nice little feature there. There you have your 6 important roles for MSHA training. We hope you found that useful, and absolutely go to mshau.com/6 roles for that extra important information. And we thank you so much for your time.